Even the simplest bridge is a structure built on trust. Trust that the span will reach all the way to the other side, that it will be strong enough to hold the weight of traffic. The immigrants who have come and continue to make their way to America are becoming part of religious congregations that serve the same function. Bridges that provide a safe, welcoming link as newcomers assimilate into a foreign culture. Bridges that allow two-way travel, so recent arrivals are able to maintain ties to their home countries. At the same time, congregations where immigrants are welcomed offer a unique opportunity to civic leaders. An opportunity to build a bridge of understanding, to inform an appropriate response to the needs and aspirations of the community's newest members.
Hello, I'm Marcy Davis. Faith and community, the public role of religion, aims to deepen our understanding of the diversity and vitality of religion in America, its people, institutions, and ideas, and their influence on our life together. The series is based on a study, the largest of its kind, that included interviews with religious and civic leaders, congregational members, and public citizens in metropolitan Indianapolis, a study conducted by the Polis Center at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. An earlier series, Religion as a Window on Culture, illustrates the variety of religions that are practiced in the United States. But what we sometimes overlook is the diversity we find within America's predominant religious tradition, Christianity, its complexities and relationships to the larger culture and to other religions. In looking at this tradition in Indianapolis, we hope to provide a window through which other American cities can be viewed. With a population of 1.5 million people, Indianapolis is big enough to be diverse, yet small enough to comprehend. Through 11 episodes, Faith and Community will introduce you to the public role of religion.
Immigrants have been coming to Indianapolis since early in the 19th century. Since the city is not a port of entry, it has received fewer immigrants than some coastal communities, but the effects of immigration are felt here as well.
The thing that's driving pluralism is the massive immigration that's occurred over the last 3 decades. And clearly, when immigrants come to this country, they bring with them their religion.
In the mid-1800s, most of the state's immigrants were Catholics who came to Indiana from Germany or Ireland. Several parishes around the state held regular masses in German until the end of the 19th century.
Vater unser, der du bist in Himmel.
Then, a new wave of immigrants began arriving from Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. The majority was Christian, but political upheavals brought several thousand Jews here as well. The area's Asian population has been growing steadily for several generations. The trend intensified in 1965 when Congress abolished limits on how many Asians could immigrate. Soon after, several thousand families came to Indiana from Korea and the Indian subcontinent, mostly to attend Indiana and Purdue universities or for jobs at multinational corporations such as Eli Lilly and Company and Cummins Incorporated. In the last decade, the area's Hispanic population more than tripled. Most of those immigrants came from Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. Dozens of Christian churches now offer services and other programs in Spanish, as well as simple accommodations such as bilingual signage and church bulletins. The new arrivals bring with them their languages and cultures. That heritage is evident in local traditions such as Oktoberfest and annual celebrations of Hispanic cultures.
The old model of how religion functioned for immigrants who came to the United States was primarily what sociologists called an assimilation model. That is, the role of religion was to make these new immigrants better Americans. The new model is more a model that religion may do all those things for new immigrants, but it also preserves the value of the heritage of the immigrant.
Immigrants have also enriched Indianapolis with their religions, covering the full range of Christian denominations and many Eastern religions as well. The city now has several dozen small houses of worship representing those Eastern religions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Baha'i.
One of the things we've seen is an increase in immigrants from new areas. Obviously, the early 20th century, the immigrants were coming from different parts of Europe. And there's still immigrants that are coming from Europe, Poland, for instance. But the larger groups of immigrants are coming from Latin America, from Asia, and from Africa. And among the Christians, there's different responses. Some of the immigrants are going to existing American churches. Other immigrants are bringing their churches here.
These congregations play an important role, not just in the religious life of the immigrant community, but in its social and cultural activities as well.
Churches have space during the week when they don't use the sanctuary themselves, and many of them, of course, have child care options and feeding programs and clothing banks and so forth.
Religion is one of those social institutions which is not just about belief. It's a community. It's a place where people gather. It's a place where immigrants, for example, can eat the food from their home country. They can speak the language that they grew up speaking. They can observe weddings and funerals and other rites of passage in a way that really embodies their culture.
It's kind of easier for us to see how it might be advantageous for a group of Koreans or Filipinos or Guatemalans to have a congregation in which they can speak their native language, in which they can practice particular traditions that they bring from their homeland, where they can kind of navigate the terrain between their traditions and the kinds of demands of everyday life in the U.S.
As diverse as we are, we also have some homogenizing. Reformed Jews talked English and had worship on Sunday. Muslims in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, have 2 mosques, and they've been there since 1934, and they look like Presbyterians down the block. And so our pluralism runs across denomination, gender, race, ethnicity. Social class is huge. But some people think that the world is based on consensus, and we've lost it, we have to find it. My view is we start with dissensus. We're very different people. We're groups that are very different from each other.
Civic leaders can benefit from visiting immigrant congregations, especially when they listen as well as make speeches.
I'm not sure how much civic leaders and politicians engage actual people in congregations. They might come for a forum where they speak and allow the people to ask them questions. But they don't always come to listen and to learn.
If you're looking for an immigrant group that has come to your community, then an obvious first step to take is to look through the religious community, and they know who's there.
Most organized social component for immigrants in the United States, whether, again, they're from Africa, Latin America, Asia, or Europe, is congregations. And the people there, I think, do have a sense of what their issues are, and there's an emerging leadership that's there. Some 3, 4 generations, some this is the first generation of leadership as Americans.
To me, the real power is with the congregation that is experiencing a change in their community because of newcomers who've come from other countries with other traditions, other religions. To me, it's a wonderful opportunity for enrichment, where we can learn more from our new neighbors and can welcome them into the community that they have chosen.
The explosion of immigrant communities in the United States is a source of both great opportunity for this country, as well as a source of some substantial problems for individuals who are not integrated enough in the community. And certainly, for example, the Catholic Church's role with respect to Hispanic, Latino immigrant communities has been enormously important, not only to those individuals, but to kind of this transition between their status, if you will, in the United States.
These people are not eligible for Social Security until they go to become citizens or have gone through certain stages, are not eligible for many government services that you and I would expect because we're native-born citizens of the United States. So in that kind of scenario, somebody else has to step in. And I think the civic expectations that this will be done among faith-based institutions, congregations, and so forth is very high.
Vida Nueva United Methodist Church is offering immigrants a chance to more fully experience their new life.
Our main focus is the spiritual life, the spiritual well-being of the individual, but we believe that along with the spiritual well-being, we need to be able to provide the social help for them to function and to be a productive part of the society and not a burden or a problem later on.
Vida Nueva began by offering English classes and was overwhelmed at the response.
When you see people coming at 6 o'clock after working all day so they can get a couple hours of English, that tells us that they want to move on, they want to be a contributing part on this society, and they understand that English is a must in order to advance themselves in school and their works and in other ways.
30 and 13.
We announced in the congregation that we wanted to give a mini computer camp, and we have 5 spots, and we had 22 people sign up. So instead of 1 week, we went 2 weeks, and that's without even saying a word to the community. It's probably the only place where a person can come and don't feel threatened because of being a different culture, because of different language, of people that look different. It's probably a safe place where you can be yourself and relax and like a haven. The church is here to provide the resources for people to improve their lives, whether it's English, computer classes, GED. Our gospel would not be complete if we only gave the spiritual aspect.
Vida Nueva serves as an intake site for the Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic, a pro bono legal and tax services clinic born out of the vision of a pastor at Tabernacle Presbyterian Church.
50% of our intakes involve Spanish-speaking persons. We know that there is a very specific need in that community, so we have devoted a lot of our resources to education and legal representation involving that population.
Entonces, si no me entiende, por favor.
We have an educational outreach program, and we call that our preventative law aspect. Immigration law, for example, is something that's unique to the Latino population here as opposed to the English-speaking population who have been citizens all their lives. It's critically important for the whole picture and for the churches to have means for people to act out their faith.
Hispanic Outreach Ministries takes the personal approach.
What I think that we have been led to do is to be a bridge between the cultures.
Ella necesita una identificación con tu foto.
To start new churches is a good way to reach that first generation of immigrants. But you're not going to reach the second and third generation with those churches. You're going to lose the second and third generation with those churches because they're going to be more American.
For now, it's relationships that are important.
Casa, un libro.
I at one time had big English classes of 25 and 30 people and found that I was teaching a certain level of English, but I wasn't really developing the friendships and the relationships I wanted. And right now, what we're trying to do is to have a ratio of at least one volunteer for every 2 students so that the relationships are involved.
It takes time to help new arrivals learn the logistics of modern American culture. Simple things that have profound impact, such as getting a library card that gives free access to learning the language.
Yeah, these books are very easy for children just beginning to read. They're probably too easy for you.
It's a struggle to adjust to a new culture, no language, no understanding of the rules. Where do you go to buy milk and bread? And how do you make change? Simple things that you and I take for granted.
¿Entiendes double click?
Yeah.
Okay.
The work of Hispanic Outreach Ministries is a calling to live in a Christ-like manner, not a membership initiative.
It will pull up everything we have.
I would say that better than 90% of the people we minister to never attend our services. But we make it very, very clear that that's their choice and that we're not going to stop ministering to them. We're not going to stop giving English classes.
He's my translator.
I think that's the role of the church. I think they need to let the community know, hey, we love you. And we love you in Christ. And if you don't respond to that, that's between you and God. It's not between you and me. I'm going to love you anyway.
For some immigrant congregations, the focus is on preserving traditional culture rather than on acquiring a new one. For most of the week, the Sikh community in Indianapolis is assimilated into Western culture and language. Sundays, though, are reserved for coming together as both a cultural enclave and a community of faith. Members dress in traditional saris and turbans and worship in a blend of prayer, music, and meditation, all in the northern Indian language of Punjabi. Afterwards, they share a vegetarian meal and catch up on each other's lives and activities.
Historically, congregations have been really important first-generation institutions for immigrants. They've been very important places for people to find a community of like-minded, like-speaking, like-eating, like-dressing sort of folk, to be that kind of transition place.
That's also the case on the Indianapolis East Side, where a Korean Baptist church focuses most of its energy inside its 4 walls, helping members of the congregation retain important elements of their heritage, especially language, food, and Korean family values. The Indianapolis Korean community is relatively small, about 4,000 people according to the last census. They've come to the U.S. for the same reason many immigrants move, for education or to find a better job.
Korean people are looking for first school, and second job, and third Korean people. I think it's perfect. It's perfect here, but not too many Korean people live here.
Nearly all of the members of Pastor Gyeol Bon's church are either first-generation Koreans themselves or they have married a Korean. He leads 2 services each week, first in English and then in Korean. The liturgy is traditional Baptist, with Western-style anthems sung all in Korean. After the last hymn comes the kimchi. Many members of the congregation share a meal of traditional Korean food. It's an aging congregation. About 2/3 of the members are over 40. But there's a new generation of young people and children who are receiving a weekly blend that combines traditional Christian teaching with Korean traditions. Plus, Korean language classes for everyone, from beginners to native speakers who want to remain fluent. And the classes offer something more, lessons that reinforce traditional Korean values.
In Korean class, we have Korean speaking and the Korean tradition, like sing a song, and thinking, like for honor their parents, respect their parents, is so important for Korean congregations.
Whether it's a Sunday Mass in Spanish, Christmas Eve in German, or a meal following worship and featuring traditional cultural food, religion can provide a valuable bridge for immigrants to Indianapolis and other American cities, a connection that allows newcomers to retain their culture, while at the same time learn what it means to live here. Congregations that become the religious home for new immigrants often become community centers as well, places where recent arrivals can start to learn the language, receive medical care, or get help in finding a home or a job. And they offer civic leaders a golden opportunity to build their own bridges to reach the nation's newest citizens. If you are interested in additional episodes or more information, visit our website at faithandcommunity.org.